Guys, the next video that you're about to watch is a perfect example of why you should not take everything that you see on the internet and think that, you know, like it's the gospel. Do your research. I did mine, and I still totally screwed up putting together my crank. All right, guys, it's about to go down. This is the book that I'm going to be using while I'm building this motor. I definitely don't believe this video should be used for any type of instructional or considered instructional. It's just a guy in a book. This is the book. Highly recommended buying it if you're looking to build a motor, a Volkswagen motor. I'm going to start out assembling the crank. And so there's a few different things when you're assembling it that you need to have. Of course, I've got my bearings. There's also a gear for the distributor, and then there is a gear for right here for the to drive the cam. So these two will actually have to be heated up and slid on to the actual crank with a like a welding glove or something. I've got a little propane stove right here that I'm going to heat up, and I'll leave this here, flip it a couple times till it gets good and hot, and then we'll slide it on onto this crank. Before I start that though, I'm going to do a deep clean of the crank here, and went ahead and picked up at O'Reilly's, of all places, these brushes. They're engine brushes. There's all different sizes of them that come in the kit, and I'm going to go ahead and clean all my journals out for the crank, for the oil journals, to make sure that they're good and clean, because it's super important. It's something you can't go back and do after the fact. So that's going to be the first thing I'm going to do. Yeah, let's build a motor. There's a little indentation here. That's for the dowel pin, and that side of the bearing goes towards the flywheel. Gonna put some assembly lube on here. Nice thick coat of it. Okay, next is going to be the actual gear. I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to clean the gear again, but there is a timing mark on this gear. You can kind of see it there. See, there's you can see that there's two little dots. You can see those are at the top there, and that's you just want to make sure you orient those correctly and point them out. So let me get this cleaned up, and we'll heat it up. We've got a little burner here. We're going to heat this thing up, and then we'll see if we can slide this gear on with a welding glove. Okay, the instructions in the book say that we should take this and submerge it in oil, about ½ an inch of oil. I don't have any pans that deep that that the wife will let me have, so I've got this. So I'm just going to heat it up and turn it a couple times if I need to. So let's just wait for it to get some heat in it, and we'll see if we can get it on. This will be a first time for me to actually ever like assemble a crank or anything, so I'm pretty excited about it. I just really want to get this motor done and get on the road. All right, guys, you ready to try this? Not even. Not even. Okay, get back on it. How hot does it got to be? Damn. I read the book again, and thank goodness this is taking so long, because yeah, you're supposed to put this on there first. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll try the gear again. Let me turn it one more time. God dang it, did it. Woo! That was hot. Oh, get these gloves off. Fantastic. All right. What's next? Looks like this one's next. Let's put the glove back on. Well, that's pretty fascinating how that works, how it heats up the metal and expands it. And yeah, man, it's on there. It's cooled down. They said within seconds, so once you put it on there, it cools down. Said the brass one heats up quicker, is what I was told. All right, man. Let's try it. They say on the brass gear that there's not a right or wrong way. It just goes on. And there she goes, boys. That was it. Okay, guys, after you've got your brass gear on there, then you got one of these. I went down to O'Reilly's and bought these to spread the rings. Makes it so much easier than, I was trying to use one of those things that you use with an E-clip that's got the little pins on each end, and it was a nightmare. So we're gonna try out this new tool. Ooh, I just heard it click. Still want to make sure. I was told when you're assembling your crank, if you don't have like a proper crank stand, that you can use your flywheel. It did give me an opportunity to really look at my flywheel too, which it's going to have to go to the machine shop. It's totally shredded on the other side, if it can even be fixed. Next is going to be the rods. I'm going to go inside. I've got a scale somewhere in there that for like postal. I'm going to measure the weight of each of these and just kind of see where we are when we as far as before we assemble it, and see how close they are and if there's anything I can do to make them closer. All right, guys, the next step for me was to take these rods and use I have a postal scale, and I measured their weight without the actual bearing in there to each other to be sure that they were balanced. And they're all 1.5, so I'm happy with the results that I got there. Another thing that I'm looking at here is to orientate, I don't know what the word would be, to ensure, okay, that you have the end cap and the rod positioned correctly and put together. There's a number, if you can see that number there, but you want to make sure they're the same numbers and that they're facing the same direction. Next, I'm going to take these bearings and I'll disassemble these, put the bearings in here, and then I'm going to put them on the crank. Okay guys, as far as the rods go, one of the biggest things when you're assembling them, you just got to remember that the bump there goes up. So kind of if you're doing like me, it's going to be like this. The bumps are going to be all pointing towards me. So that'll put them in the correct position. If you have a motor that's been out for machine work, they recommend that you purchase some stuff called plastic gauge, and it's like not exactly completely clear on what it is, but it's something to verify the oil clearance on the rod bearings. And my crank or my piston rods have not been machined, so I think I should be good. I'm sure I'll hear in the comments if that was a big mistake, but I'm going to go ahead and go with it. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and get this taken apart. And they said between the actual rod and the bearing, these things like to stick in there nice and good. I got a little teeny tack hammer that I can lightly tap them out with. Okay. They said that you don't put anything on this surface between the bearing and the rod cap or the rod itself. All right, we'll get these all nice and clean. Make sure that your threads don't have anything on them because it'll affect the use of Loctite on them. Some of the older motors have like a nut that has a little ring on it that can be, it's got like a little place to hit it with a little shot peen thing on it to lock it in place. I don't know how to explain it, but there's a little washer on there that you can bend down, and it'll actually meet with, let me see here, this little groove right there to keep them from ever coming off, which it says not to reuse them or re-hit them. I don't know. I'm going to go with Loctite, and I may go ahead and tap them just a little bit. Just depends. I just have to look and see how it all goes together. All of these have a little indentation on one side, and then you have the same on your bearing. Just get them in there and line it up. Wow, this seems really narrow. I'm going to make sure that there's not different width ones. Maybe they're all the same. They're all the same. Oh, okay, yeah, you can see the marks in there where they were previously at. Okay. There you go. Just holds in there. And I am very generous with the assembly lube. For me, it's feels like it's going to be like super important as far as for the life of the motor for that initial startup. The assembly lube I'm using is Lucas assembly lube. All right. This piston this is number 1 rod. It's on the right side. Those are lined up. So that one will be, should be this one right here. Let me verify there. Negative. Let me look, verify. So yep, it's the second one up. So here we go, guys. I'm like horribly nervous about this, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I don't know if I should put some on that journal too. Some assembly lube. Yeah, it wouldn't hurt. Let's overdo it. Let's overdo it. wipe any assembly lube that got on your threads, because it'll affect how the Loctite works. Alright, man. Okay guys, says when you get ready to torque these, you start at 15, lock it. Okay, once you got it to 20, then you go to 24. Alright, follow up on the video you just watched. Now, it's all apart again, and I'm going to do it right. Apparently, I don't know the difference between a thrust bearing, so that was wrong. Then also the spacer. But I've got some fantastic people on the internet that are very knowledgeable on this stuff, and they help me out. So, it just takes a few minutes, pulled it off there. It's not hard to do once you've done it once before. And I'm going to throw it back together. Anyway, it's like I said, I'm not the one to give you an instructional video by any means. Alright guys, here it is after it's been corrected. Some of the things that you may notice now are all of the rods have this pointing towards me, which is all pointing towards the top of the motor if it's laying in the motor. Okay, then I no longer have the thrust bearing here. I actually have the regular bearing that's supposed to be there with the little dot closest to the flywheel. Then I got the spacer. Then I have the gear with the two dots pointing towards the pulley. Then we have our timing gear. And then we have this bearing with this little opening here towards the flywheel. Then we have this washer with the cup pointing towards the pulley. So that's the way I should have done it. That's the way it's in the book. Why I did it differently, I'll never know.